Morning. Ugh. Yeah, it's still morning. So we are going to be making... Yep, we're going to be making Russian spindles this morning. After the shows, I have one left. That's not listed, so... So this is a supported spindle. So it goes into a bowl. It is. So yeah, this type of spindle you put in a bowl. That way you can make really, really, really thin yarn. You know, I've sold, like a dozen of them, so... At the shows. They're a thing. It's one of those things where I don't make these a lot, so... If I start adding more and more of them, then they will get more popular. I mean, in a month I'll probably sell 6 or 7 when I'm not at shows. It's different. It's a different skill set. Neither one is harder than the other, but I think the Turkish spindles are a little bit easier to wrap your head around. When we get done with this one, I'll show you how they work. Yes, a lot more sanding involved. Yeah, these are way more boring to make. So I think these I'm just going to be putting a mineral oil finish on. I did a bunch where I did multiple coats of lacquer on them, and they're all shiny and like glass-like, and people gravitated more towards these, which I don't understand, but I'm okay with it. Oh yeah. If you're being attacked by a vampire, this would be the one you'd want. So I'm numbering my sandpaper. Otherwise, yeah, it's hard to tell the difference between the grits. 4 and 5 have smaller grid to them. All right. Dipped in garlic would be a great idea. So they would sit in a bowl, and then you would spin them like this. So that's how you're putting twist into the fiber. Now I'm going to have to do something a little bit different here. I have a small line there from it hitting up against the side, so I think I'm going to have to either put tape on the shaft or just keep an eye on it would be okay too. So the one bad thing about these is they're either good or they're bad. There's no fixing them. Where a lot of other spindles, if there's something wrong, you can add weight or take weight around. Take weight away. Yeah. So that's nice. It's sitting in one spot in the bowl. Yep, so that one's okay. So then that'll get oiled and so I already have the centers marked. And then I did machine this down so it fits in the chuck. So it's so close, I actually just opened the chuck up, grabbed it like this, and pushed it in. with my thumbs like this. You don't want to wrap your hand around this. Kind of like starting like an old car. If you wrap your hand around and something bad happens, you could, you know, break your thumb or whatever. So just like that. So the Turkish style ones use the bottom bits as weights, so they spin faster. They would spin longer, much longer, because they have a whirl, the flywheel on the bottom. So the supported spindles are for really short staple lengths. So you're talking about like Angora, like the bunny rabbits. Not the goats. The goats have longer. Anyway, cotton, really tiny stuff. So really quick, but a shorter duration of time. So it's like flick, draft, flick, draft, flick, draft. Where the Turkish spindle, you'd flick it, it would be slower, but it would be longer. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little test here, where I'm just going to bring this down to about a ½ an inch, even a little bit more than that. And then I'm going to back off the tailstock and just see how it's running. It's running nice and smooth. So then we can move on to the next step. If it had vibration, I would either have to move everything down a little bit, but this is the fastest, easiest way to do it. So this caliper here is the biggest diameter. So we'll bring down the size. And then I have the story stick here. So this is the example that I use. But you can see how over time that the point's gone. So I give myself just a little room. This is cherry. I do have some maple coming up, so I have 5 cherry and then 5 maple that I want to make today. I already got 2 done of the cherry, so we got 3 more of these. Yep. So this template I can lay over the top and chuck my diameters. So, you know, I got to bring a lot more material, take a lot more material off. I have to change the design a hair. I'm leaving a little bit more mass down here so it spins a little bit longer. Yeah, we'll go right there. There's more sanding with this style because we're storing the yarn on it as well. And, you know, the Turkish, the 220 is perfectly fine. It's got a good feel to it. You're much more intimate with this one. I mean, I could just go to 220 and I could just do my normal 2 and then burnish and it'd be fine. So yeah, this one has much more sanding. Yep, so we'll sand this out. I'm leaving it a little thick back here because I don't want it to break while I'm sanding. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do the maple ones today or not. We'll see if they're still fun. I mean, it would be nice to get them up on the websites, but the websites are getting shut down in less than a week. So. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's kind of up to Vicky. I think I'm feeling pretty good. I had a perfect sleep score according to my watch. So the intention is we'll see how we feel at lunchtime. But I'm feeling pretty good. Like yesterday, I did the half day. She is the boss. And then I went home. I wasn't feeling good. I took a nap. And then I woke up and then I came back here for like 2 hours. And that's fine. We have a wholesale order that came in, so I wanted to get that all cut out. So Vicky can sand that today and send out the invoice, and then we can send it out tomorrow. Hold on to your sandpaper, people. Yeah. So getting down to 600 grit, it is frickin' shiny. Shiny, shiny, shiny. All right, there is a little, let's see if I can zoom in. There's a little void right there, which isn't the end of the world. We could take care of that. So let me grab my kicker. Grab some coffee too. All right, we're actually just going to fill it with some super glue. We're going to hit it with some kicker or activator. And it's dry, so we'll sand that section out again. Now they also make black super glue, which sometimes is, if you have a bigger void, it makes it more into a focus. Yep, so as far as the pens go, we decided to wait until we got back to order the stuff. It's all sitting in the cart. I also have a buffing system in the cart as well. So I'll show this after we're done with it. It's perfectly smooth now. There's no void anymore. Yeah, it's not uncommon. Yeah, voids, bark pockets. Trees are living things. They're the house for birds, squirrels, and a lot of insects. You know, if you buy commercial lumber, it's not too, as far as wormholes go, it's not really that big of an issue. If you go out in your backyard and you cut a tree down, you're going to run into some. If you use like exotic woods, you're going to run into a lot more. Or insects, exactly. Wormholes, but yeah, they're bugs. Beetles. Here. See if I can get the focus. Yeah, but that's no longer a void. So very smooth. So I made this little smushy collet for these. We're going to try this paper toweling thing. It might not work. Too big. I just don't want to put tape directly on that. Spent all that time sanding and throw some tape on. So that should do it. Yeah, around here we had the emerald ash borer, which destroyed, ash trees. And ash trees are very common here. It's illegal to move firewood out of the county you're living in to try to stop it from spreading. But yeah, at my parents' house, they lost like 20 trees. And it sucks. Ash is pretty. It's very similar to oak. It's a fast-growing tree. And you know, Australia is really, really, really good about customs, making sure that you guys keep bugs out with wood. Yeah, actually, I have in the past. They also make baseball bats out of ash. Yeah, it's a very common wood here. I have never had any issues sending things to Australia, but everything I have is commercially kiln dried. So if there's bugs in anything, they're dead. Yeah, that's smooth. It's probably very hard to see, but it is spinning. So I put a piece of tape so you can actually see it is spinning. And I threw the tape off, so you're going to have to keep my word. Take my word for it. It happened. So I do not sell these bowls. So this is a nice curvature. It's just on a scrap piece of wood, which happens to be mahogany. But what I did was I melted 3D printed filament waste. I melted it into the bottom of a soda can, and that gave me that Oh yeah. Hey, Rats, how's it going? Yeah, you know, ash, you know, if you stain it, it can be mistaken for, like, red oak. Yep. You know, I make the little wooden ones, which I brought 10 to the last show and they'd sold out, so I have to make more bowls too. Off the top of my head, I want to say an inch, but I could be wrong. Might be 3/4. Yeah, it's 1 inch, you know, about 25 mil. So I don't use a lot of carbide, but for putting that in, it's just easier to use this piece. A lot of turners are either very pro or very against carbide. So carbide originally was used a lot in metalworking, and it's kind of transitioned into woodworking quite a bit. Alright, I'm just going to take a peek, see how she's coming along. So we're going to switch. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, I don't use carbides very much. But, you know, once in a while, they can save your ass. Oh, nice. Got a little mini handle. I have a little Sorby that has like a half oval and a side on it that just, I bought it and I never really found a good use for it. But, you know, I like Sorbys. Actually, I don't know what I have to do. That's good. Alright, turn the speed down. Now we're going to be using our 40 grit chisel here. But the only bad thing is when you have to use your 40 grit chisel, you're gonna have a lot of scratches. So we're trying to use the larger grits. Try to get the larger scratches out of the way. I just have to run just behind me real quick. I need to, I have wireless HDMI on my monitor here, and it is not liking me today for some reason. So we'll see if that works. Actually, not ghost shows. I'm watching a murders caught on tape kind of thing. Not the murders, but how they're using, doorbell webcams to find killers. Walking down the street. Just like Arthur. And I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. Yeah, it's not set. It's not working. So I gotta reset it. I feel like I work for tech support. Yeah, I'm totally doing tech support here. I'm unplugging it and plugging it back in. So when I clamp this down, I am not tightening it like super tight. It's gonna vibrate in there. What I'm gonna do, if I tighten it, it might not be truly square. Hey, now it's working. So when I sand down the end, instead of being in the center, it might be off a little bit, and that would add vibration. But simply just leaving it a little bit loose takes care of that situation. I turned on the ghost shows this morning, but there's one show that I really dislike. And that's what was playing, so I opted to hop on Amazon Prime. Sorry, Roku, but I'm paying for this. I just lost my paper towel. Oh, no. As much as I would hate to have to deal with Mr. Baggins, it's like ghost stuff, but there's a lot of cryptid stuff too. And yeah, that's feeling really nice. And the way it's all clips that were sent in, and it's all very speculative and... This individual's videotape Bigfoot, and it's clearly a guy in a ape suit. Yeah, kind of a running joke with Vicky is we're watching the ghost stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, we're watching the one with that, guy from the Shire, that Baggins guy. All right, so we got our dowel in here. Looks good. If I was going to make a bazillion of these, I would set up the duplicator and rough out the duplication and then clamp them in here. But when I turn these, it's kind of loose. I'm not real exacting on these. They're close enough for what they are. Let me go down just a little bit more. .220 grit pencil eraser. Yeah, so this is the only application that I use these on. I do have a diamond hone that I can hit on it. I am ordering more. This is my last one. I still have about, well, you can actually see where I sharpened it. These scratches on the top there. So I still have the whole bottom yet. I'm sorry, guys. Kind of in the zone. I should be talking more. That's all right. So, on an unrelated note, I'm pretty excited. This weekend is our citywide rummage sale. And the day after that, we can put out our large waste pickup. I mean, oh, they do large waste pickup like every 2 years. So in one of my spare bedrooms, I have a washing machine sitting in there. So we got rid of that and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's going to be great. You can see how exciting my life is when large waste garbage pickup is exciting. Right? Now I could just do that and be done. Pretty much. So the whole theory behind the large waste pickup is, you could get rid of large appliances and that kind of thing. But the metal that they pick up helps pay for the whole thing going on. And typically, the junkers come through and pick up all the stuff and take it to the junkyard and make money off it. So, I mean, it's on the curb. I'm not going to, hey, you get away from that. But if you're looking for, a couch or something. But it's kind of nice because you have your rummage sale and anything that doesn't sell that kind of fits a criteria but you can throw away, you can just move it onto the curb. Gotta be careful, guys. I thought that was going to be a regrind right there. Pretty much. You can't throw away TVs or refrigerators, anything with Freon, because air conditioners you can't put in there just because, environmental things. Those cost money to dispose of. No construction stuff, no construction materials, but they do let you throw away windows and I'm trying to think what other surprising things. Microwaves are okay, ovens are okay. No computers, no TVs. Oh, carpeting. Carpeting's okay. But you have to have it cut down into 4-foot sections, so it's a little bit easier to manhandle. When I was in my 20s, that was exciting because you could go, pick stuff up. But yeah, I'm really not going to be aggressively doing that. If I see something cool when I'm driving by that's, got wood that I could use, maybe I'll pick it up. But they're not going to be making money off that, so. So what you do is you go to the newer subdivisions. They're more likely to throw away better stuff. Yep. I have, this one has a little sapwood on it. So I have one that I already made this morning, so I got 5 done already. Pretty much. Yeah. So I got a love seat to throw away. I have a love seat that I tried throwing away like 8 years ago, and the kid was like, "Oh no, I need that for my bedroom." I'm like, if you put that in your bedroom, when you move out, you have to take that with, because I'm not dealing with that couch again. And of course, he left it there. All right, now we're to maple. Yeah. Of course, I did kick him out. He was 19. He was working in a factory, so he needed a better car. So we loaned him the money to get a better car, and then he quit his job like the day after, and then he didn't work after that. And then he got a 27-year-old girlfriend who he repeatedly moved into the house. I'd kick her out, and he'd move her right back in. I'm sorry. At 27, I was married, I had kids, I had a mortgage. Was not digging that. So he was Vicky's kid, but I raised him since he was like 5. Well, what can you do? Oh, what was I looking? Oh, I was going to look on Etsy. I was just curious if I have any of these listed. Yeah. So that's what the listing looks like. So we make them in birch, cherry, and maple. Sometimes some other woods too, but yeah. Well, there's stipulations with him staying. It's like, dude, you can stay here. We're going to charge you rent, which he never paid. The idea was the money that he paid us in rent, we were going to throw into a savings account. And when he moved out, we're going to give that back to him to help him start out. So, yeah, so he never paid rent. So, as much as I would love to have a 27-year-old girlfriend at 19 to supply me with booze and, and dope. I mean, it was not a good situation. Hard love. So I'm hoping, like 3 years from now, to come visit Australia in July, because I just love Australia in winter, you know? No, I want to go to Bendigo. Bendigo has a big Australian sheep and wool. Thought it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun. But we'll see what happens with the price of gas. You know, it's not something that I could go vend at, because Australia is very hard to sell product if you're not Australian. Which makes sense. You want to protect local business. No. I've never had issues with the wood because it's all commercial. It's all kiln dried. I've never had an issue. But I know that there are restrictions. There's a huge list. You know, you can't have anything with bark on it. But since it's all kiln dried, you know, it kills everything. So. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to bring in a ton with me. If I had the paperwork to sell, then it wouldn't be an issue. Customs might take a lot longer than if I didn't have anything, but yeah, if I brought a suitcase full of spindles, as long as I paid the tax on them, I'm sure they'd be okay. You know, and more than likely what would happen was, I do know a few people there. It might be one of those things where I would send them a bunch of stuff and then just kind of hang out in their booth, you know, as a special guest or whatever. So there's a company that makes a lot of this kind of stuff, big commercial company in New Zealand called Ashford. And they switched, the president handed it down to his kid, but he still does. He comes to America to a bunch of big shows and kind of hangs out. And then he hangs out with some of his distributors. You know, and then people will buy like a spinning wheel and they'll have them sign it. Which I always think is a little weird, but it does happen. Can you sign it? Well, I already have my signature on the bottom of it. Yeah, but I want you to sign it for me. Okay. They do love their sheep in New Zealand. And also in Australia. Come on, you guys developed the merino. The Dan Marino wool. See, Dan Marino was a football player in America. This is so dumb, but it prevented that thing from happening again, so. Yep. So yeah, merino is a very popular breed of sheep that was developed in Australia. It's a very large sheep. And you guys went to extreme measures to make sure that it wasn't smuggled out and bred elsewhere for a long time. So, you know, depending on the animal, you know, some, like merino's very soft and not very itchy, where you can get a lot of coarser fibers from different sheep that are very itchy or not as soft. Let's look. Well, a lot of times they dehorn these days. But yeah, they have. Great, somebody just sent me $244. Oops. But yeah, there you go. Hey, thanks. Here we go. So, yeah, normally I don't put my phone into the camera view. Oh, definitely. You do that a few times and you got enough money to pay the rent. I can almost afford a tank of gas. Hey Greg, how's it going? Welcome in. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. Hump day! I think we're gonna finish up this one and then we're gonna go hop on the scroll saw for a while. Need to sit down. Better drink my coffee before I don't know, it gets any colder. So this is a Russian supported spindle. I have been making them for a couple of years. I don't normally stream them because they do take a bit of time. There's a lot more sanding involved in these. So I've been getting more into making supported spindles. This is an example of one. Yeah, for some reason I brought maybe a dozen supported spindles, and I think I came home with 3. So they did sell rather well. Yeah, I do. What I do, I would want to bring twice as much as I think I'm going to sell. So if I think I'm gonna, sell 10 of these, I'll bring 20 of them. And that is, you never know what's going to be popular at any given show. So one show, the glider, the full-size glider might be really popular, but the next show, something else might be popular. So I bring way more than I need. And, if I still have like a show's worth of inventory when I get home, that's not bad, because we can put that online and then we can kind of take it easy and focus on some other things for a few weeks. So kind of what's going on now is we have this week and then we have to leave next week for a family thing in South Carolina. And then when we get back, we'll have a big sale and we'll put the majority of that stuff up for that sale. And then, we can run that sale for a week or two, depending on how the things go. And then during that week or two, I can be focusing on working on the setup, our display for the next show, or I can, experiment with something else, or work on the CNC machine, or I can devote my time elsewhere. So it's kind of a win-win. Yep. But the biggest issue is now we have a gap. We don't have another show until September. Exactly. Breathing room is good. But in September, we're going to have a big show. Wisconsin Sheep and Wool is our biggest show. And then a couple weeks after that, we're going to be flying to California for another show. It's kind of a test. So we're only going to bring Turkish spindles and just sit at one table. We're not going to have a big setup, and just see how the sales go to see if it's worth going back next year. And then when we get back from that, a week later or 2 weeks later, we have to drive to North Carolina, which is about a 14 or 16-hour drive for that show. So we're going to have another 3 shows. So after our little sale, we're going to be right back into, making as much as we can and being super busy until, September. And I wouldn't have it any other way. So the California show might be a break-even show, and if it pays for the hotel and the rental car and the flights, we're all right. Yeah, let's cut it off. So after October, then we have, Christmas. We're taking a massive hit. Yeah. And a lot of it is just the worst show we did. The person who set up the show didn't give us any information and made it sound like it was a huge show. And it was in Illinois. And we show up, there's like 6 vendors, and maybe 35 people came through the entire 2-day event. So, yeah, not good. Needless to say, we haven't gone back. If I knew the situation, it's like, oh, we got an inside spot for you. Oh, okay, fine. Well, it was a kind of a circus style tent, and it wasn't very big. Something you would have at a wedding. And, yeah. And, it was our fault for not doing the research, but they were not very honest with what it was. Yeah, yeah. I've been to craft fairs before. I was doing spindles. I did a craft fair, and I don't know if it wasn't just well organized. It was at a high school, and it was only a 1 day thing. And half the people packed up and left at noon, and it went to like 5. So if you pack up at a craft type sale before the show's over, you're not ever invited back. You sign a contract saying you're going to be there. All right. Yeah, it's just like, it wasn't even their first year. They'd done it before. But it wasn't a very, as far as the craft show goes, it wasn't very, we're going to bring this over. It wasn't very juried. Because, apparently my printer had issues switching the spools. One of the printers, so let's figure that out. What's going on, guys? You ran out of filament. You were supposed to go to the next roll. I mean, a lot of it is, organization. All right, so this printer was supposed to switch to this roll. It did not. I'll look to see if the colors are different, but it just wasn't in far enough. That was my bad. All right, so it's not trying to switch. So we'll go over here. Oh, what the heck? There it goes. Well, it's the same machine. I'm not sure when it was my bad. I messed up, so can't get too mad at that one. Yeah, this one I do have to replace the PFE tubes on the inside. I did spin them around, so it should be all right. It was just, we were so busy getting stuff ready. And away we go. So I'm printing a bed of sheep, and it did mess up in this, well, now it messed up even more in this area here, which isn't a big deal. Messed up there too, so I'm still probably going to get 100 and some off. But it's just going to do a bunch of air printing, and then it'll probably smear on the next one. What speed is this printing at? I'm not even sure. It's just the normal speed. So it's running at 100%, which is standard speed. It is quite a clip. No. When it first came out, you were able to exclude. This one, you are not. It could be that there's too many items, but it's not in the menu, you know. Yeah, the other ones you could just click the skip button and then just pick out whichever one is messed up and click stop. But yeah, you can't with those. But now we'll get these really beautiful chains apparently. Yeah. So, you know, I give these away, so it's really not a big deal if I lose a bunch of them. Yep. We're not in hardcore production mode with 3D printers right now. Alright, so. Yeah, it is what it is. So, the bed on the Mini's getting old. I've been using hairspray on it to keep things stick. Right? So if I'd get a different plate, it wouldn't be bad. But
right, so she paid. I'm gonna get this done and then package it.
okay. Yeah, it's noon, so.
Those three, I think. Gave those three to the post office.
Yeah. So she paid for that's like 14 spindles.
No, this is the one that we have, everything's already up in the front.
Oh, it's just that one spindle. Okay, yeah.
That one spindle, yeah.
Yep.
This stuff I haven't even started yet, and I won't bill her
Right.
until later.
How often do I dishwash my plates? Usually I will hit them with some isopropyl a couple times. And then if there's more adhesion issues, then I will, I'll wash them. So it depends on how things are going with the plate itself. So it could be, you know, every couple of weeks. It could be, you know, every couple of days. So for some reason, like 2 updates ago, my printer says it has the standard nozzle in it. All my files had the standard nozzle, but now it tells me I'm not using the standard nozzle, so I have to go and hit a disclaimer, and that's what I ran away and just did. I don't want to have to re-slice everything if I don't have to. I'm hoping the next update that'll go away. And I started using Dawn Power Wash, which has been doing a really good job. It's got like alcohol in it. because we do eat here, but we don't generate a ton of dishes. So the power wash has kind of like a spritzer nozzle, so you just spray it and you wipe it off. So far, we'll see. Vicky's finishing up another wholesale order right now. There's only one spindle that needed to get done, so she'll probably finish that up, and then we're gonna have to run that to the post office. Yeah, it's getting close. It's noon, so probably in the next hour or so. Actually, I should probably go take my pills. So I'm going to run away for 30 seconds. And go! So probably get this out in an hour. Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I mean, let's plan on leaving at about 1 o'clock.
I was gonna do it now and then get there.
We'll leave at 12:30.
I don't know, sure. I don't know if I still won't be done by then. But
Well, whenever you're done, let me know. I can stop the live stream.
okay. No problem.
All right. So, yeah, it's kind of nice because right now I'm not really. Time isn't under my thumb right now, and I got like a bunch of stuff laid out, so it's a lot easier to make stuff when you're not under pressure to make stuff. And I have decided now that when we get back, I am going to make a small workbench, something that's not very heavy, and set up the subterranean scroll sawing station for when it's like 100 degrees out or when it's nighttime. So these are hard maple. So another advantage of, having the sales and having the inventory left over from the shows, is, if you have a sale, you can, generate, a bunch of income all at once, and then you can use that money to buy supplies for the next show. So you don't have to shuffle stuff around for that. So the funny part is, Minnesota is a cash show. Not saying that people don't use credit cards, but most of the people use cash. If I can zoom out here. And the reason for that is the cell service there sucks. So they don't have Wi-Fi. So we use an iPad with cell service on. And hang on a second. I just had a sale. So the cell service sucks. So like I said, we have the iPad with AT&T. Yep. And then I have my cell phone through a different company. And the AT&T was horrible this year. Didn't work at all. So I had to hotspot with my phone, which isn't a big deal, and that worked fine. But people have been going there years and years and years, realize this. So you see people grabbing their phones or their iPads and running outside trying to find a signal. So you can tell that the people have shopped previous years, the people who bring cash, because they know that they can get stuck waiting for, the transaction to go through. I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm like, man, we're taking in a lot of cash, but it makes perfect sense. And I'll take, the extra 3 to 5%. That's fine. Cash is preferable in most circumstances, but if I am going to like North Carolina, I would prefer credit cards, because in America, if you get pulled over by the police for anything, and they'll ask you, if they search or ask you if you have money, if you have a bunch of money, they can take your money and say, well, we think this money is going to be used for buying drugs. And then you have to go to court and fight in the courts to get your money back. So in that case, having it credit card would be preferable. Because down south, even towards the East Coast, you get some pretty sketchy cops. And they actually give seminars on how to do this, because it's a big pain in the butt, and especially if you don't live anywhere near there, you're gonna what are you gonna do? Yeah, it's kind of like you're way more likely to get pulled over and get a speeding ticket if you're not in the state, because they know you're not gonna fight it. The last time I got pulled over in where did I get that speeding ticket?
I think it was Kentucky.
It was Kentucky. So it was only a $25 ticket for speeding, but it was like a $200 and some court cost. Now they do that because they know that you're not going to fight it. Because worst case scenario, you still have to pay the $225 for the court costs if you win or not. But they might lose $25, but they know you're not going to stay in Kentucky to get a court date. You're not going to drive 12 or 14 hours to to try to save $25. So dirty. And, oh yeah, you're going to buy it to sell drugs. Really, I'm in a van with, a commercial van with a business attached to it and product, I'm packed in there up to the gills. But sure, just take all my cash. Well, the problem in America is if you get a dirty cop, right? If the whole force is clean and you get one dirty cop, depending on what they can get away with, if they get caught for something, we have qualified immunity for the police. So the police officer doesn't get penalized. He might get yelled at. He might get fired, but it doesn't affect his pension. It doesn't affect him. The taxpayers have to pay, for, the abuse they did, whether, it be, something, against the First Amendment or Fourth Amendment or, arresting a sober person or, aggressive force or whatever. They're not going to be held liable in most cases to that. And what happens is, if something's really bad, they'll fire the person, but they'll just move to the next town over and get rehired. And if something happens there, they'll go somewhere else and get rehired. It takes a lot to make it where they cannot be a police officer anymore. They should get rid of qualified immunity. If somebody does if I would do something illegal, I would be held responsible. But they're not. Some cases, they can lose their qualified immunity. In that case, the people who they violated, tie onto their pensions. And for the rest of their life, they're going to get money from them. But, yeah, it's just a crap show. Body cams. Oh, great, they got body cams, but they don't turn them on or they mute them or, it's like, what's the point? There is a lot of corruption. I would like to say there's not, but the police can legally lie to you. And they will. And it's not like I have a huge disdain for police. I have a brother-in-law who's a police officer. It's just, yeah. They're really not serving. They're really not protecting. Might say that on the sides of their car. Yeah. A lot of things are on video now, and oh, look, they did this, and this. Well, they used to do a lot more because they got away with it because there was no video. Now, I've never been arrested. I had a piece of shit neighbor who called the cops on me quite a few times. But it's like, whatever. The community I live in is pretty small. So we get a lot, I'm not even sure how big the police force is, but we get a lot of new people, fresh out of the academy. They work here for a couple of years, and then they move on. So it's a constant, revolving door of people. And there's, a lot of racial profiling as well. I know Australia does have, your Aboriginal population has a much higher percentage of imprisonment than white people. So, there's a lot of that garbage going on too. Yeah, that's just it. If the people up top are bad, they're going to encourage bad behavior. If my boss is doing something, it must be okay. Yeah. It's like, okay. What else can you do? Come on, guys. You already got everything. What are you gonna do? I think I'm going to finish up this one. I saw that Vicky just printed out the last shipping label. So we're going to call it a stream. We made it 2 hours. Yay! Yeah, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for hanging out. Much appreciated. To infinity and beyond. Have a good day.